Hi, my name is Sue Jeffers. Welcome to our continuing series of Meet the Candidates. Joining me today, my pleasure to have in studio Tim Utz. Tim?
Hi Sue, nice to meet you again.
This is so fabulous that we get a chance to update the viewers on what's happening in your campaign.
Yes.
Mark my words, in less than 100 days from now, I think you will be the next member of the House of Representatives from District 50A.
Yep, I believe it's 96 days. And I'm
96
counting
days.
each one of them, yes.
I think we all are.
Yes.
Looking forward to November. What's happening in your campaign?
We are going out with the bus, and we're hitting each precinct. I think we're up to precinct 5 this week, I believe we're working on. And we are running across so many people, Sue, that have just had it. I met a gentleman who's a lifetime Democrat who's going to go right down a ticket, right down his ballot and vote everybody out who's in office. That's going to hurt a lot of Democrats, but it's also going to hurt some Republicans too. So the Republicans need to go out and we got to do our work too. We can't sit back and expect this wave to just automatically bring a bunch of Republicans into office.
Exactly right.
So that's one of the things we're doing. And planting yard signs, we're having a blast planting yard signs.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, we're having fun. My opponent does. I haven't seen one yard sign of my opponent yet this year. So I think she's waiting for some special day. I don't know what's going on, but I'm all over town, and I don't see one of hers yet.
We have a couple big parades coming up. St. Anthony,
yep,
I think,
St.
is
Anthony's
right around the corner.
And you are invited if you want to come. You can be my guest on our bus.
Love your bus.
Yes.
People see your bus all over the
we stopped by to drop off a yard sign, and the homeowner wasn't there, but his tenant was there, and the guy said to me, well, where's your bus, Tim? I don't see it out there. I was driving around my van, because the van's a little easier to drive around one-way streets and into cul-de-sacs than a big campaign bus. So I told him I headed home taking a break.
And you have a platform on the back of the bus?
Yes, we built that platform in time for the parades, and I actually use it when I'm out campaigning. Like I'll go on Central Avenue and I'll stand on the back and wave. I had the grandkids out there last Tuesday, I believe it was, out there helping me by waving. Gets a lot of attention.
So I'm sure we could go to your website and find information of how people could get involved and what parade was coming up. What's your website?
TimUtzForHouse.com. And there's a place on there for all of our campaign activities, and there's sections in there for donating and all these other different places. So you can go in there and have a lot of fun. You can spend a lot of time in there.
Or to become a volunteer.
Become a volunteer, yeah. We're always looking for them, especially the parade coming up on August 6th. So if you want to come and be involved in a parade, come and join us August 6th.
I love parades. People underestimate how much fun parades are, getting to meet the people, shaking hands.
Especially when you're popular like we are, it's a lot of fun. If you're not popular, it's not so fun. But for us, this year is a lot more fun than it was in 08 when nobody knew who we were. This year people know who we are, and it makes it a lot of fun.
Very visible in the community. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's pretend it's January and you're the new member of the House of Representatives. What are your priorities going to be?
Balancing the budget and repealing law. We have become a police state. I'm just going to start calling it a police state, where a big brother dictates how we live our lives and conduct ourselves, what we can and can't do. And we don't realize until we try and do something how much government interferes in our personal right to choose what we want to do. And back to like the seatbelt laws are one of those. Everybody should wear a seatbelt. Don't get me wrong again, I'll say that again. But to have the government dictate that you have to wear a seatbelt or you'll be paying a penalty, you become a criminal basically, is, as far as I'm concerned, illegal and unconstitutional. And so those are some of the focuses repealing. But balancing the budget, we're looking at $8 to $10 billion.
But they keep trying to tell us it's going to be a $6 billion deficit. I'm convinced it's going to be higher.
They're ignoring accounting shifts and inflation and those minor things that add up on a budget.
That add up to real money?
Yeah, and actually I just looked yesterday on the management and budget report for Minnesota. They had a June preliminary report, and they're actually projecting by November that they're going to be $100 million short in the budget, and actually legally the legislature has to address this issue. So I'm not sure what's going to go on. I didn't quite read the whole report, but there was a very clear indication there that there's going to be cash flow shortage this fall because we're $100 million short in our collections, and most of that is on income because unemployment is still an issue.
Well, let's talk about unemployment. Now, we hear people bragging that in Minnesota, unemployment is much, much lower than it is at the national level.
But what's lower than 10%? Yeah. I'll give you an example. Like my wife was on unemployment for a while, for about a year and a half, I guess it was, but the unemployment ran out for her, and so she's no longer on unemployment. She's no longer counted in the statistics. So in Minnesota, even though the unemployment actually went down officially, there was a whole lot of people in the month of June that lost their unemployment benefits or ineligible and so on and so forth. And unless I'm incorrect, I believe that's what I'm correct on this, that they're no longer counted within the unemployment statistics because they're not involved in the unemployment process.
Exactly right. I think
so our unemployment actually, went down, but actually we lost 3,700 jobs in Minnesota in June, even though our unemployment rate went down. So you can play numbers games all you want, but the fact is we're hurting and a lot of other people are hurting. I don't care what the numbers say. The numbers do say, yeah, that went down, but actually more people got laid off.
And other numbers that you never hear out there is the black population, 50% unemployment. Up in northern Minnesota, 25% unemployment. These are numbers that nobody talks about.
Correct. And nobody talks about my industry either because it's such a small, statewide it's about just over 3% of the population is in the construction industry, and that's all construction. But I want to talk a little bit today about the construction industry, and real quickly we're going to talk about unemployment numbers. This is for the carpenters, the union carpenters in the state. Statewide has dropped 40% since June of '09. And June of '09 was a bad time to begin with because actually the whole problem started in October of '08. So by the summer of '09, we were really hurting in the construction industry to begin with. So we've had a 40% reduction in contributions, in hourly contributions by employers for payroll working in the last 12 months. Now, related to that, in October of '08, when I did get laid off, as a supervisor, I filed with the Carpenters Union. They have a waiting list where you can go on there and you sign up and you wait and they call you. You can do that as a carpenter, but you can also go out and look for work, which I've done too, and haven't been able to find a job. But since '08, I signed up, I was 825 on the list. I had 825 people, carpenters ahead of me on the list.
In front of you.
This is in October of '08. I just called this morning before I came to the studio. I'm still number 234 on that list. So in almost 2 years, 500 people have been put back to work in the construction industry, officially.
The state of Minnesota frequently comes out and they tell us that when the legislature's in session, we've passed $1 billion jobs bill. I call it a bonding bill, a borrowing bill, and they say this is going to put people back to work. And haven't we had $1 billion bonding bills for the last 3 years, I think?
Oh, yeah. It does put, well, in the statistics though, it does put, you can see the glitch in the statistic, the number of statistics in the construction industry there is. In the highway heavy and that industry, yeah, there's an uptick in the construction. But all commercial, industrial, institutional, retail, all these other segments of the construction industry are all taking a bath. The only upside is, and that's a very small segment of the whole construction industry.
How are we going to fix this?
Get government out of the way, and people pay off their debt and get back to some sanity as far as the way we live our lives, not living for tomorrow. And a lot of us do that. I did that to some extent, and a lot of people have done that. We live for tomorrow, spend today. We can't do that.
Something the state of Minnesota has been doing for a long time.
For a long time, right. And the difference between me, you, and the state of Minnesota is if we don't have a job or our job doesn't give us a raise, too bad. The state of Minnesota wants money. All they do is raise the tax rate. So they don't have any checks and balances in that aspect outside of the legislature, and their record the last 10 years has been pretty poor.
Very poor.
Very poor.
Very
Yes.
poor, as we're looking at probably a $10 billion deficit this year.
Yeah.
What are some of the ideas you have to get people back to work, to get government out of the way? You mentioned repealing some of the legislation that's in place.
Most of us work for somebody. That's just flat out the facts. There'll be one employer and 100 employees. That's just the way, that's reality. So you have to have business that wants to be here, wants to work in the community, and finds a benefit to it. What's our advantage have been over the last 34 years I've been in Minnesota is we've had a very intelligent, highly motivated, very efficient workforce. That's not the only thing that can keep business here. It's a great driving force to keep business here and keep them and get them to come back. But what I'm going to do, and this is the fun part about being a representative, after I get elected, I'm heading out to South Dakota. I'm going to go over there and talk to that oh, what's his name? That has the commercials on about South Dakota.
Love those
I
commercials.
know, they're great. I'm going down to South Dakota and find out what they're doing. I'm going to bring it back and reapply it here because a lot of our jobs, a lot of our expansion in the manufacturing industry has gone over there.
It has gone to South
or
Dakota.
to China. You know, to
Well,
China. A lot of other places gone to China.
China, but it's also gone to South Dakota, North Dakota,
Dakota.
Iowa, and
Right.
Wisconsin because Minnesota consistently ranks in
Right.
the bottom 1 or 2, number 49 or 50 for business unfriendly states.
Right. And I was a business owner for 4 years, and I know what it is. It's regulation. It's. I would hire somebody, and this is just in the construction industry. I had 21 sheets of paper I had to fill out for hiring one person. And that's even if I hired them for a day. Let's say I had a small job, and I'm going to hire somebody to come in and tear out some walls in an office space. And I wanted to hire somebody for one day. I'd spend 2 hours on that one, just for that one day, just filling out paperwork, having to sign all this verifications and all that. Some of this stuff is necessary, yes, but a lot of it is repeat, overlap between layers of government that just, and it's just trying to regulate. It doesn't help. So what do? I don't do the job, you know, and this person doesn't have a job for a day or a week or whatever it happens to be.
And other businesses in the state of Minnesota, they understand the same concept. Let's talk about the Northwestern Delta merger. They didn't locate in Minnesota. They
No.
went to Georgia because they had a much lower corporate income tax rate. They had, I mean, there was a whole host of...
Plus Delta bought Northwest, and if I'm buying Joe in Idaho, I'm not moving to Idaho. Idaho's moving up to me wherever I happen to be, so the primary purchaser of the corporate business is going to move all their... And if they're going to do any shedding of jobs and their restructuring, is going to be at the outside locations, not at their primary locations. So with Northwest and Delta, you're going to lose jobs here. It's just automatic.
And if I'm a business owner and my corporation is in Georgia with a 3.9% corporate income tax versus double,
Yeah.
almost triple that here in Minnesota, I'm picking Georgia.
Sure you are, yeah.
You're talking billions of dollars,
Yeah. Yep.
which can hire a lot of people
can hire-
in Georgia.
Yes. So we want to take a minute and look at these.
I would love to.
I pulled up, there's a site called positivelyminnesota.com. And it's
Which is a great website, by the way, positivelyminnesota.com.
for all the people who like numbers. This is like dying and going to heaven. What we got right here, and then, yeah, it's on there.
I can
Okay,
see it.
is this is the monthly report for June. Now you can see Minnesota's non-farm economy lost $3,700 in June, even though the unemployment rate went down.
Go figure.
Because people like my wife are no longer on the unemployment process. Then you go down here. Now this is a total for Minnesota, percent change, and a U.S. change. We don't care about the U.S., but this is a percent change, total non-farm. What I do is go under construction. We lost 900 in Minnesota, 900 jobs in Minnesota, but that's 1%. In just 1 month, we lost 900 jobs, and that's 1%. Then you go down here and other services, and government basically broke even. We'll get to that in a second.
I was going to say, please, can we talk about that a
There
little
was a
more?
positive, hospitality and leisure. 5,000 jobs were created.
It's summer.
Yeah, it's summer. And then 2,300 in financial activities was the only. But 7 of the 9 categories that Minnesota tracks for employment dropped in June.